Hey, I'm Sarah, and this is the Goddess in Training podcast. This isn't about being perfect or polished or having it all figured out. This is about what happens when you actually start listening to your body, your intuition, your patterns, your truth. I'm asking big questions and having real conversations, sometimes messy and sometimes magical, with people who've lived through it, grown through it, and still don't have all the answers. If you've ever doubted yourself, betrayed your gut, or wondered if you're the only one, you're not. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah. Today's conversation is one I've really been looking forward to. I'm joined by my friend Tabitha Cain, who I met here in the Roanoke Valley, a place that continues to surprise me with the depth of its healing and intuitive community. Tabby's path is one that I think so many of us will recognize. She began in very 3D spaces, corporate leadership, sales, entrepreneurship, and through a series of life transitions found herself called into the metaphysical and holistic realm. What started as curiosity became a complete reorientation of her life and work, and today she's deeply devoted to service, healing, and community building. Tabby's co-founder of Stillwater Flotation, which is truly one of the most grounding, transformative spaces I've experienced. If you've ever been curious about floating, nervous about stillness, or craving deep nervous system reset, you'll hear why this practice is so powerful. She's also the owner of Be Lightful Healing and co-founder of One Community Now, which supports and connects healers, educators, and practitioners across the region through expos, events, and shared resources. In this conversation, we talk about what happens when life pulls you apart just enough to ask, who am I really? We explore intuition, fear, trust, business without hustle, neutrality instead of spiritual bypassing, and the quiet, everyday moments where the deepest healing actually happens, sometimes while mowing the lawn. We also talk about birth and death, stillness and movement, money and energy exchange, and why presence, not performance, might be the most powerful offering we have. This episode is for anyone who feels pulled in many directions, anyone rebuilding after a rupture, and anyone learning to trust that their path doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be valid. I'm so grateful to share this conversation with you. Let's begin. Hi, welcome to another episode of Goddess in Training. I'm your host, Sarah, and today I am here with my friend Tabitha Cain, who I met here in the Roanoke Valley. I'm so excited to talk with you today because you have done so much in your life, starting in corporate America and starting so many businesses, practicing so many different modalities. And I've talked with so many people recently, and myself included, who feel pulled in so many different directions. And I'm so curious about how you started and how you ended up where you are today. And we'll talk a little bit too. I've been to Tabby's Stillwater Flotation place in Roanoke, which is so magical. It's really an amazing, amazing experience. If anyone has the opportunity to do a float, I highly, highly recommend it. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Sarah. I like to come out and share information, and it feels like 2026 is just going to be that year where we just really start to go out and put ourselves out into the world. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share information and see where this goes.
So take us back to the beginning. How did you get the first pull to enter into a metaphysical, holistic space?
Well, I think like a lot of people who come into this world, there's a catalyst. Some people, it's a trauma type catalyst. For me, it was relational. And this was just a decade ago. I found myself in a position where I was now single, a single mom, and not really knowing who I was, not knowing what Tabby likes. What does she enjoy? What brings her joy? What brings, excitement into her world? Because up until this point, I've been in corporate America. I've done sales. I've done nonprofit work, started entrepreneurial work. But everything's been very focused in the 3D, right?
Mm-hmm.
3 kids, getting them through school and sports and all of that. So you just lose yourself in that. So I had this beautiful opportunity to say, okay, who am I and what is it that I want to do? And to be completely honest, I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
It's a process. Yeah, it's just a process. And as I learn more about myself, I'm able to dive a little deeper and find out what authentic really means for me. And it's different for everybody. So I'm sitting at, I think it was maybe just after Christmas. I know it was winter. It was cool out or cold out. and going through Facebook, like we do, just doomsday scrolling, and see this thing about energy work and Donna Eden. It's free masterclass. It's an hour. And I'm like, energy work. What's this? A chakra? What's this? I don't,
Uh-huh.
nothing makes any sense to me, but it somehow is pulling me. And so I watched this masterclass, and I'm like, oh, wow. Something feels right about this. And now I'm excited, right? And when I get excited, now I want to learn. I want to bring all the information in. And so I ended up taking a course with Donna Eden. That was my first intro in, and just knew I wanted to do hands-on healing. Like that was my next thing I had to do. So I found a class. It was Healing Touch was the first thing I was actually certified in. And I'm in the class and they're explaining all of this and they're like, okay, now we're going to connect to the energy. And so I put my hands on my partner's shoulders and kind of close my eyes, and I open my eyes and I said, am I supposed to say what I feel? And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, as soon as I put my hands on her, my legs constricted. I don't know what that means, but I can feel this. And am I supposed to say that to her? And the woman kind of whips around and she's like, I have been traveling for the past 2 weeks. I've been wearing compression socks.
Uh,
And so now instantly, like, I'm hooked on this,
right, of
right? And
course.
now I need to know more. And so
Right.
I did, and I deep dived, and I got my master's in metaphysical sciences. I got certified in over 12 modalities, ended up changing my whole life path. I had three very 3D businesses. Now everything that I do is service oriented and in the holistic realm. My whole life's trajectory changed from that one hour master class.
Wow.
So it's never too late.
No.
It is never too late to get started. And the timing is always right.
Hmm.
Even when it feels awkward or feels overwhelming, I think that we're called to this when we're supposed to be.
I believe that too. It's funny that you talk about having a divorce or a relationship split and having that moment where you're like, who am I? I've been talking a lot about that with people recently and just wrote about that on my Substack. Having that moment where it was devastating to realize I had no idea who I was, but your description of it being a blessing and an opportunity, I think is so important because when we're in that moment, we don't necessarily feel that.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of come with time and wisdom,
Hmm.
understanding that we have the ability to change our perception of what's in front of us. And yes, sometimes there are heavy things that are coming our way, but there's usually a silver lining behind it. And if you can be open to what that is and what that's going to look like for you, I think it can allow you to move through those things with a little more ease. For me, anyways, I find that when I'm in flow, that things are going smoothly and things are kind of connecting, those synchronicities are happening, that's when I know I'm on the right path.
Hmm.
When I'm meeting resistance, something isn't quite right, either within me or within the situation I'm in, and I need to evaluate it.
Exactly. Going back to that moment where you put your hands on the person and you felt the pain in the legs or the tightness. I've also had those experiences doing Reiki, and when they first happen, it's this mix of kind of alarm, curiosity, maybe a little bit of fear. Like, what? Wow, like this is some kind of power that you're not sure what to do with necessarily.
Mhm.
How have you then grown those abilities?
Well, I think for me, at least, it's practice, right?
Mhm.
And it's not that practice makes perfect. Practice brings confidence.
Exactly.
And the first couple of times you have to say those weird, uncomfortable things to people, or, a thought or a vision or something will come in that just makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't get this at all. And I think this person is going to think I'm Lulu for even having this thought. And then I say it, I find that confidence to say the words, and they're like, oh my gosh. And then they will tell you how that resonates for them. And I think that after that repetitively happens for you, you start to build confidence. And the more confidence that you build, the more these skills develop. I don't think it's something that you can learn.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a textbook or a process that you can learn, but I do think that it is something that you can grow and hone. And those skills look different for everybody. Everybody has different clairs that are more open or less open, and different blocks and restrictions that kind of hold us in place. place in different areas too. So that's kind of the beauty. You get to experiment and play with that a little bit.
Have you had times when you have felt something about somebody as you're working with them, but you just have this knowing that they're not ready to hear that? How do you manage that? Or if when you receive some bit of information, is that just automatically an indication that you're supposed to share it or at least offer to share it?
It's kind of a case by case basis. The majority of the time, I feel like if the information is coming in, it is to be shared. It's how we choose to share the
Mm.
information that can help them decide how to receive it
Mhm.
too. Sometimes sharing it in a way that is more descriptive and more these things happen in my life. Maybe this would resonate for you
Right.
versus you need to look at this. But also in those instances, it's okay if they're not ready to receive as well. For me, I think planting the seed can be as important as the work being done. It doesn't mean that that seed's going to grow today or tomorrow or next week even, but now it's planted. And when the conditions are correct, that seed can begin to grow. So for me, sometimes it's not them receiving or owning or working on that issue. It's, bringing it to the surface so that it can be looked at and worked on.
Going back to how you have created so many different businesses, I often talk with people, and I've experienced this in my own life, where business logistics are more kind of the masculine energy, the lists, the logistics, the money, these things that for so many of us who are intuitive naturally, they don't come very easily, or it's draining to do that piece
Mhm.
of business. And I think a lot of intuitive people who are called into a holistic business struggle with that. Is that something you've struggled with in your life, or have you had that balance?
Well, I've kind of been blessed in the way that I came into this. So I started in senior management. I managed people, oversaw customer service, continuous improvement, quality assurance, scheduling. There's a bunch of different departments that I was over. And then I kind of moved into sales, right? And so that's a whole nother arena of how to work with people and talk with people. So my business experience kind of grew just by life experience.
Mhm.
But I think that what's important to understand is that you don't have to be a business person to have a business, but you do have to have the right support network around you to make it happen.
Mhm.
So maybe you have this beautiful gift and you're ready to bring this out to the world, but you don't have any of the business experience behind it. Instead of struggling, go find those resources. Find somebody who's into marketing, who knows how the SEOs work, who knows how to build a website, you know, you don't have to do all those things. I think sometimes we think we have to take it all on ourselves. There are a lot of resources that are out there to help support the the sides that we're not as strong on.
Mhm.
And so taking advantage of those, I think, are important. Also, you don't have to do everything yourself. Outside of my healing work, I'm partnered with somebody for every business that I do.
Ah.
I don't have all the strengths in every aspect of business, nor I think, does anybody else, right?
Mhm.
We have strengths and weaknesses. So finding somebody who complements you and that you can work with really well can help kind of bridge that gap as well.
Mhm.
So, there are things that I don't prefer to focus on, but there are things that I'm really great at too. And so now that allows me to kind of pick and choose where to put that energy and allow that other person to kind of pick up the slack in the other ways as well.
You've also done amazing work in building community with Holisticon.
That's
Yeah.
our fall show.
Yep.
And then in the spring, we have just the Holistic Expo. So it's Roanoke Valley Holistic Expo
Uh-huh.
and it's Roanoke Valley Holisticon Expo. Two different things. The same group, myself and Rob Arana, put these together. And this is the sixth year for the spring show. And I think it'll be the fourth or fifth year for the fall show. Spring show is much bigger. It's down on the main floor of the Salem Civic Center. Last year, we had over 80 tables. I think this year we've already got, say, 60 or 70 booths signed up already. So
Wow.
it's huge and it's awesome because you don't have to pay to come. There's no cover charge to get in the door, which allows people who are just really interested. What is this? You've got that spark, you've got that interest. But I think even $5 can hold somebody back
Yeah.
from stepping over that threshold of discomfort to say, what is this? And is this something that's for me?
Mhm.
So that's the premise of what we're doing there is just trying to give this resource to our community to be able able to go out and see what's here. Most of the folks that show up are local, not everybody,
Mhm.
but even those folks that aren't local have online businesses so they can offer their services even when they're not in town, which is a beautiful thing. Um, then the fall show is a smaller, more intimate gathering. Um, it has 35 or 40 vendors, so much smaller. But I think it has a nice feel to it, and that's upstairs in the Salem Civic Center. So all free parking, all free entry, and just a really amazing group of vendors that I think we have as much fun supporting each other as we do working with the community. So we all look forward to just seeing each other and
Mhm.
being together. And everybody comments on the energy and how
Mhm.
wonderful it feels to
Mhm.
be in that mix of people.
Mhm. Yeah, I was out of town for the spring show, but was at the fall show, and it really was that amazing energy, and I've been so struck by how large the community is here in the Roanoke Valley. I came from Northern Virginia and moved here about a year and a half ago, and it was such a surprise to me. I started out going to Glow in Salem, which is now closed, but
Hmm.
there are so many other physical locations popping up, so many groups. There's something at least every week, some kind of free gathering of folks talking about different things or presenting on different things. And then, the brick and mortar like Float and now Maplewood Studios, and where you can get sound baths and all different types of healing.
Hmm.
It's very unique. I talk to friends all over the country, and they're just so surprised that this exists here. Do you credit that to anything? Why do you think that is the case here?
Well, and it's funny that you say that because you're right. We do have this great community, but unfortunately, we're very spread out.
It
And
is.
it's a little disjointed.
It is.
And so it can be really hard to figure out where your resources are, how to even locate them. And that's actually something that one community now has been addressing with our community. What are their needs and what can we do to fill those needs? And what we've done for 2026 is rolled out a directory. It's called Good Vibes Guide, and it's just a guide of local. It doesn't have to be local, but you have to be able to be resourced, at least online. Vendors in all different types of modalities, whether it be healing work or whether it be educational work, whatever it is. And we're doing it at a really nominal fee because it's not about making money, it's about building community, right?
Mhm.
And building a resource that all of our folks can kind of come to. They'll be promoted at the expos and things of that nature as well. So we're really looking forward to putting that together and finding a central hub so that you can find the help that you're looking for.
Mm, exactly. Because it's so overwhelming to go online and, you don't really know which direction to go in. And I've met a lot of people who, once you get that first pull, and then you start opening up to the different possibilities of the things that are out there. It can be really, really overwhelming. And then you
Very.
just start going to see everybody. And then I think you can get a little disjointed because you're just taking in so much information and you're trying so many different things all at the same time. How did you stay grounded as you were exploring at first?
That's a great question. I see two issues with that. One is I think that sometimes our need to people please can step in our way of finding the best resources for
Mm.
ourselves. And so the first thing when I have an appointment with a new client, the very first thing I tell them, I'm really glad that you're here to work with me today. If the work that we do here today does not resonate with you, please don't give up on energy work.
Mm.
Please find somebody else. I know plenty of people in the area that I can personally refer you to, or I can help you find resources
Hmm.
to get the work done that you need. But our resonation with each other is as important as the work that we're doing, right?
Definitely.
And so I think that that's one thing, saying this didn't feel okay for me doesn't make that person bad, right?
Right.
It's not that they did a bad job with the energy work. It's that the resonance between the two people wasn't there, and
Hmm.
that's okay.
Hmm.
And 6 months from now it might be.
Right.
You never know.
Oh, yeah.
I think the other thing that's really scary is that there are a lot of people who are trying to monetize this wellness click that we're on now. We kind of go through these little phases in our lives, and right now I think everybody's kind of on the wellness phase. And what are some natural resources? What are supplements that we can use? What is this energy healing? Um, and when people are trying to monetize, that's not necessarily going to be best for you.
Hmm.
So I think being really diligent how does this message resonate with you? If it's instilling fear in you, it's probably not for you,
Mhm.
right? Because energy work is about removing fear, not bringing it into us.
Exactly.
And if somebody is using a fear technique to try to get you to give your hard-earned monies over to them, that may be the wrong motivation.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to look for somebody else to help you with that.
That is so true. So, speaking of fear, what role has fear played throughout your journey? And do you experience fear now?
I think everybody experiences fear at some point, and fear is our ego's way of protecting us, right?
Mm.
So fear is not really a bad thing. What's bad is when we get stuck in it
Hmm.
and when we allow it to rule our decisions. So for me, fear is a tool to identify the fact that there's something that I'm resisting.
Mm.
Now, what is that? How can I address it? And can I move it out of the way? That's that's what I need to work on next. So for me, I try to use it as a tool.
We were talking when we saw each other the other day about your work helping people transition
Mhm.
from this realm to another realm. And I think fear at its base, we just have this innate fear of death. How did you get called into that kind of work? And what have you learned through those experiences?
It's like everything else, it's synchronicities and just sheer timing of how things fall together. It is not anything I ever thought I would be doing, that I ever pushed or was striving to achieve. I had a client that I was called to help who had cancer, who wanted to fight it.
Mm.
And so the first thing that I tell somebody that I'm working with who has illness or disease is that I'm not here to heal you.
Hmm.
Let me step that back. I'm not a healer.
Hmm.
I'm a conduit for energy.
Hmm.
I call in source energy. I open myself up. I basically step to the side and I let you and your guide, your higher self, do the work that needs to be done, right?
Right.
So I started working with this person who was ill and wanted to receive healing. So everything went well. We got the person cleared. And then a few months later, it came back.
Mm.
And the message came through that we weren't going to be clearing it this time. And so that put me in this place of transition. Not that that's where I was planning on going.
Yeah.
Um, but what I've found in the process is that it's really interesting the things that hold us here.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've seen it be our concern for other people, not wanting to leave somebody. I've seen it fear of not knowing what lies ahead. And it's not that we know, right? But if we don't have a belief structure to lean into when we come to these times, that's where the fear comes in, I think.
Mm.
Not that you can't have fear even with a belief structure in place, but if you don't know what that's going to look like, it can be a scary place to be. People concerned about legacy,
Mm.
people concerned about getting a final message through. And a common theme I'm seeing is I think people are over medicated in their last days. And so there's some confusion about what they're supposed to be doing. They're not clear thinking.
Hmm.
And so needing some guidance to know what are my next steps and where am I supposed to go from here.
Hmm.
So it's a beautiful process. It can be a little overwhelming sometimes, but I'm grateful to be able to help get people onto that next phase.
It's so amazing. And I have not been in that kind of situation. I've been more on the birth side where these life transitions that we all experience and we don't put very much focus on in our culture. We don't have ritual around birth and death like so many cultures do. Most people don't have constructs, and it's so incredibly medicalized, both of them, that we've lost touch with our essence of and our ability to transition into this life and out of this life. Do you think that we might be moving into a period of time where people are more aware of the need of those kinds of rituals or are desiring support in those moments that's different than the medicalized version that we've had for so long?
I would love to say yes, but I
Hmm.
don't know that as a society we're there yet.
Yeah.
I think that big pharma, Western medicine, all of that has such a financial hold on our ability to move forward in true healing arenas, that it's going to be really hard to, as an overarching community to embrace those things. But that doesn't mean that we can't make strides in that direction. And it just has to be a personal choice. I don't think it's something that we move towards the collective for at this point.
Right, right.
So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Going back to what you said about people being careful about people who are selling fear or selling and monetizing this kind of work. As a business owner, how do you strike that balance? Because we all need to sustain our lives and make
yeah.
money. Money is just a fact of life. I really wish it weren't.
Well, and I think more important than money, because I do think that we think that energy exchange is money. But really, it doesn't need to be.
Mm,
Energy exchange is energy exchange, and that could be bartering.
hmm
And I think that as a society, we used to do that all the time. That's how we got through life. And now we're almost ashamed or embarrassed to say, can we trade for
hmm
this? So I think giving a new spin to what energy exchange means is important. But I think energy exchange is important in that in order for you to find value in it, you have to be putting something into it as well,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
And so for me, I don't advertise. I don't have like a funnel system that if you come to see me now, I'm going to promote this, 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 and this, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I believe that it's your healing journey
Yeah.
and you need to be in the driver's seat. You need to be driving the bus and you need to be telling me where we're going. I don't have 6-week programs, 12-week programs, whatever, because I don't see healing in that way. I don't see energy moving in that way. For you, it might be 4 weeks. For the person next to you, it might be 12. Somebody else might never get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's all where we're at, the work that we're willing to put in, and what we'll receive back in the end based on that input. And I think that that's the most important thing.
I have talked to other people who have the same kind of lack of model, I would say, where you just are putting yourself out there, not even, you're just here and energetically the people who can best receive what it is that you have to offer just come to you. And I so desire that for myself. And it's so hard though to work on getting rid of the lack mindset and trusting. How have you trusted that everything will just work out throughout your life?
Geez, that's a great question. Practice.
Yeah.
And results, I think, are the two key things.
Mhm.
You keep trusting, you keep seeing the results. Now the confidence is building in what we can anticipate to happen next. I think that would be the best answer for that.
Because I really, really resist all of those models for building your business. And you put a quiz out there, and that's how people discover you. And I've done those things, and they never feel aligned, and they don't work, or they haven't worked yet.
Because you don't believe it, so why would it?
Right, that's true. Yeah,
If you don't believe it, why is
yeah,
anybody else going to?
yeah,
You're not putting the energy of
yeah.
truth and not that you're lying, but
Right.
that you have the confidence in what you're saying that this is
Mhm.
gonna work. So why
Mhm.
is anybody else?
Mhm. They feel like shoulds, like, "Okay, well, if I'm building a business, I should do this, and I
Mhm.
should do that, I should do that." I love the idea of turning that on its head and just being and walking through the world and doing what feels good and turning away from what doesn't feel good, and I feel like I do that to some extent, like with my coaching. When I think of somebody who says that they're gonna renew or, come back for some more sessions, I'm not, like, hounding them because like you said, it has to be on their time. If I put any kind of pressure, it just makes the exchange, it makes the process not about them, it's about me, and it's not about me at
Uh-huh.
all.
Well, and then I find too that I'm eager to help people, right? I wanna help people. I'm a people
Yeah,
pleaser by nature.
right,
But if I do the work, you're not gaining anything from
right,
that.
right.
I've tried doing some business coaching and found the very same thing where people aren't willing to put the effort in that I'm willing to put in, then I'm not gonna put it in either.
Mhm.
Because I can't grow your business.
Mm,
I can't make you a stronger healer. I can't do those things. That's something that you have to do.
yeah,
I can support you in that,
mhm,
but I can't take that first step. You need to do that yourself.
mhm.
So, and I'm not talking to you, but you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, well, you are, yeah, it resonates, so you are talking to me. I think a lot of people are feeling this this collective shift. And more people are, I think you're seeing growth in your community events, and I think more people are becoming aware of alternative ways of thinking, especially because from my perspective, the world is so crazy right now. There's nothing that is outside of the realm of imagination, because the world that you see around us is not the world that when I was a kid was kind of promised to us, right? And so then it just kind of opens everything up. How do you see the time that we're in, and where we might be headed collectively?
So I may have a slightly different answer to this than what other people do. When I started down this path, I was very much of the belief that we were all moving towards love and light, right? And not that that's a bad place to be, but I think that's the starting point of your awakening. And kind of what I've come to now, I think that because of polarity, if you have light, there must be darkness. So if I'm growing the light, then that means I have to be growing the darkness as well, not necessarily within myself, but within the collective. And I think that 0 point and coming back to neutrality is where I'm trying to at least guide myself. Because when we come to 0 point and we come to a point of neutrality, we can then take the position of the watcher. And when we're in the position of the watcher, now we've stepped out of ego, and we're able to look at things from a different perspective. So now I can see things from my perspective and your perspective, and I can make decisions based on what's going to be best for us collectively, not what's going to be best for me as an individual.
Yes, 100% yes. The way you just described the time that we're in resonates so much with me. And I was talking with somebody recently who said a very similar thing in a different way. And I think the way you described it is so beautiful, in the way that neutrality, and that we can't turn completely away from one or the other. Everything has to exist. And what I've been trying to practice recently is reverence for everything, is that you can't put the light work on a pedestal, because it exists amongst everything. And transcendence is not the goal that a lot of healers are, that they try to sell, right? How do you experience that in this world? Like, as I have moments of transcendence, coming back into my body and into this life, and realizing, like, well, this is it. We look for our spirit guides, and so often I'm catapulted back here, like, they're right here. They're right here in front of us.
Well, I think more importantly is they're right here.
Yeah.
And this is where all the information that you need is.
Yeah.
And we spend so much time individually and collectively looking for the answers outside of ourselves. And I think that maybe true transcendence is coming back to yourself and coming back to the knowledge that you are the source, and that you contain the information. And if you can get into that still place and listen, you can get everything you need. You don't need to go anywhere else to find it. But finding the trust in the information that you're gleaning, that's a completely different story.
Yeah, definitely. Are there things in your life that you feel like you have overcome, that have helped you get to where you are? Have there been moments where you've been frustrated, like, oh, I need to get past this thing, and you look outward and then you realize that it's inward, and then you find the solution inward? Do you have an example of that?
I think the best example that I can give you of that, I think that we're always looking for that big thing, right? This healing doesn't happen in those big chunks. Occasionally it will. But the majority of us will experience the healing in these small, minute shifts that just collectively come together to make a huge difference in our lives. So for me, I do meditate all the time, but for me, some of the best meditation is doing things like mowing the lawn, where you can get in that headspace and you can just kind of allow for the information to come in. And those are the times that I feel like I'm getting the biggest shifts in my life, which sounds absolutely crazy, but realizing I'm mowing the lawn one day, and if my neighbors are ever watching me, I'm sure they're like, "What is this crazy woman doing now?" But I kind of had a clutch your pearls moment, right? I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And what I realized in that moment was that, and this is all based on childhood experiences or whatever, and that's what forms who we are today. But I try to predict what the next bad thing is that's going to happen so I could be ready for it.
Ah,
And in that moment, I was trying to predict what the next bad thing that was going to come because everything was going great.
uh-huh.
And I heard it. For the first time, I heard that voice. I had never caught it before. And I was able to go, wait a minute, doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be bad. We can just have things go right. We don't have to wait for the shoe to drop.
Uh-huh.
And it created a huge shift in my life. It wasn't this big monumental journey. I didn't climb to the top of a mountain and
Right.
fast for 6 days, right? I was
Right.
mowing the lawn. And that shift came in. And I think that physical healing can happen very much in the same way, right? It's not about, having somebody come in and your body goes into convulsions. It's about doing the little bit of work every single day, being consistent, showing up for yourself,
Mm.
and allowing the change to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you are a mother and a grandmother.
I am.
Talk a little bit about your children and your grandchildren and what your hopes and dreams are for them and how you see your role in helping grow them.
I think, first of all, I would say there's probably a lot of regret
Ah,
around parenthood because I didn't know then what I know now,
yeah.
which was important for their journey and was
Mhm.
important for my journey. And I understand that. But boy, I wish I could parent from where I am today.
Yeah, right.
It would be a completely different experience for me and for them.
Uh-huh.
But that aside, my children are my greatest teachers.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And each one has taught me a valuable life lesson. My daughter was very much taught me that I can do whatever I set my mind to as long as I'm willing to put the work in.
Mm.
And she exemplified that by being on the men's wrestling team all through middle school and high school, as well as being in pageantry. So she
Wow.
she did everything.
Oh my
She was a
gosh.
track star. She did all the things. My middle son taught me patience.
Mm.
He has been the greatest gift of patience. And my youngest has taught me love
Mm.
and the value of just being
Yeah.
in that love.
Oh.
And so, yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey. And I even saw those things, even though I wasn't, kind of awake to the spiritual aspect of things. I saw those things as my kids were growing up. I saw the lessons that they were teaching me, but now I think I have more appreciation for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with my grandkids, I think that my job is to show them just how to be and not to tell them how to be and try to do that through example.
Mm.
And I've had conversations with all of my kids about, I'm sorry that I didn't see how I was parenting you at the time. And here are some things that I think I could have done differently, but I did the best that I could
Mm-hmm.
with the, information that I had in that moment. And I think that they respect that.
Mm.
And I'm blessed with 3 really amazing kids and 5 grandkids, 1 more on the way. So,
Oh, that's so
yeah,
exciting. Oh,
yeah, I'm tickled.
when are they?
This summer,
Okay.
will be probably a Leo is what it sounds like, which
Okay.
is the majority of us
Ah,
in our family, so
okay. Okay. Wow. Ah, family gatherings must be really fun.
Leos and Virgos.
Uh-huh. Okay. Wow. Wow. It's so interesting that you say that. I've been thinking a lot about my grandparents. And for a long time, I had this kind of regret that I didn't get to talk to them in my adult self. And I kind of wondered, well, they didn't talk about themselves.
Mm,
They didn't teach me. I feel like they had an opportunity to be more of a teacher. But what you said about just being and being present is what they did. And that's what sticks with me is
mm.
that presence. And I don't know if they knew that, but they probably did. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't know.
Yeah.
In some form, they knew that because they were doing it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
and as a society, and I think social media even pushes us further in that direction. But, we're waiting for the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're preparing for the next thing, and we're not stopping to enjoy the moment that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that's been a real focus is trying to be present in the moment that I'm in and do everything that I can to take away whatever that next piece is. So like one of the tricks that I use is if I know that I need to be somewhere, I have a commitment, but I want to be present where I am currently, I'll set an alarm on my phone.
Ah, yeah.
And then the alarm tells me when it's time to come out of this and into the next. I don't have to check my watch. I don't have to do any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's finding ways to bring yourself back to presence and
Mm.
being, in that beingness.
That's really smart. When we're so addicted, whether you want to admit you're addicted or not, we're addicted to those devices. If I tried to count how many times a day, I just kind of look, check in.
It would be very alarming. We don't want to be that honest with ourselves, do we?
No. I'm so curious, how did the idea for still water flotation come to you? How did that come into your life?
I didn't have anything in this to begin with. Of course, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears since then. But my business partner had gone out west,
Uh-huh.
kind of a midlife crisis, and exploring and trying to figure out who he was and what he wanted to do. And he found floating out in the Midwest, and he brought back the idea with him. And we had worked together in previous businesses, so we were familiar with each other, and kind of brought the idea to me. And I looked at the business plan. I said, this is a really good model.
Mm.
It's like, well, do you think you'd have any interest? Like, no, no, I don't think so. I've got, 3 other businesses and the kids and, all these things going on in my life. And then he got a float tank and he put it in his house. And so I started floating every week. And it probably wasn't 2 months. And I said, this is definitely something I want to be a part of, because it's a way to give back to the community. And it's a way to introduce techniques to self-heal or to self-care. And so with floating, it's 75 minutes. You're in about a foot of water. You, the room, and the water are all relatively the same temperature, so you kind of can't tell where you stop and where the water begins. And once you get in there, if you can go to that complete darkness and complete stillness, you find anything muscle or joint related, great benefits. It reduces inflammation, increases range of motion, and decreases pain. It's great for anxiety, depression, PTSD. And it's just a really great way to relax and meditate. It's a beautiful place to meditate. So there was a lot of benefit that we could offer the community with that. And then we ended up introducing fire and ice as well, which is infrared sauna with red light therapy in a cold plunge tub. And you kind of go back and forth between the two. And both of those have all very similar benefits. So, yeah, just a kind of backed into this beautiful way to give back to the community. And we kind of touched on this earlier, but I'd like to bring it back now too. When you go into business to make money, then your focus and your struggle will always be with the money. When you go into business to make a difference in the world or to help people or to educate, when the goal is not the money, the business will help fund the money, but the business is where your focus is. And I think that's a big distinction in how or why businesses work or react the way they do. It's where we put our attention and our focus.
Exactly. Yeah. The intention. I've been to still water flotation several times, and I took my daughter once. She had a neck ache, and I was like, you know what? We'll get rid of that immediately. So I took that opportunity to have her try it. And it was virtually impossible for her to sit in there in the dark without her phone. I think she did 15 minutes.
Well, floating is so telling because it's 75 minutes where you're by yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have sound, you don't have entertainment, you don't have something keeping your mind occupied, and it's 75 minutes with yourself.
Yes.
And that is really scary for some people.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing. And that talk, that chatter that we kind of quiet with the television or with music or those kind of activities, you start to really understand what's going on back there or in there. You also start to really connect with your physical body and find, I didn't know that this was sore or this was stuck or this muscle was tight or whatever the case would be. So when you remove senses, it actually heightens others.
Yeah.
So it puts you in this position where you can start to really connect with yourself in a way that you just can't do when there's other distractions around. And that's one of my favorite parts about it.
I meditate really frequently, and I was kind of expecting when I first went and did a float, it to be very similar to either, and I use plant medicine too, and that maybe I would be able to connect in that way that I do through meditation, either with plant medicine or without, but it was completely different. I guess it was just being catapulted into that stillness where you don't have any feeling, just the sensation is so incredibly different, which created a very different experience connection for me. And I've been really wanting to go back, but been able to because in July I had necrotizing fasciitis and that needed surgery on my leg. And since then I've had a fungal infection. So I've literally had open wounds since July.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing. If you go float,
No salt.
you
No
do not
salt.
want to put salt in your wounds.
No.
So as soon as I am allowed, so as soon as I don't have open wounds, I will certainly be back because It's such a simple but transformational experience, and I think that's kind of at the base of what you've been saying, what we've been talking about this whole time is that we tend to overcomplicate things,
We
and
do.
laying in some salt with nothingness, just sitting and being with the people that you love without any kind of agenda or lesson, that's what it's all about.
And that's where change starts from, right? I think that, especially when you come into the spiritual or the healing realms or whatever, you have this like this drive or this desire. I want to help people. I want to make a big impact. I want to do all these things. And you want this grand scale that you're making this impact on. And I think what's hardest to appreciate and understand, it's in those moments in that float tank when you're working on yourself and you're having that realization, you're removing limiting beliefs, and you're doing all this self-healing work, that you're impacting the whole rest of the world.
Mhm.
And people don't understand the importance of that. As a healer, I hate that word.
Yeah.
As an energy worker, I may just help you. Okay. But when I help you change your life, you impact everybody that's in your circle.
Mhm.
And when you impact everybody that's in your circle, now you've changed their life and now they're impacting everybody in their circle. And it's this beautiful ripple effect that
Mhm.
goes out in ways and in depths that we aren't even aware of, nor do we need to know.
Yep.
To me, it's not my business.
Mhm.
My business is to be the conduit. And
Mhm.
what happens from that happens from that. That is not my business or responsibility.
What are you excited about that's coming up this year? We're now in the year of, well, almost to the year of the horse, right?
Mm.
I've personally done a whole lot of shedding, and I am ready for the year of the snake to be done, and gallop forward with the horse energy. Is there anything that you have coming up that you're excited about?
Well, for me, 2025 was very much the self work. I found myself not being able to go out in public a lot, just being called to be home and be still, doing the self work and focusing on that. But 2026 has just kicked off with a bang.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that I'm going out, I'm being more social and putting myself out in more social situations. So for me, I think that's the most exciting part. I feel like I'm finally getting movement. It's very hard for me to be still. As long as I practice, it's still hard for me to be still. So to have movement and to see things starting to move and develop is really exciting for me.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Tabby, thank you so much for being here. This has been so fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Goddess in Training. I hope something in this episode stirred your knowing or softened your heart. If it spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, or leave a review or comment to help others find us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please consider supporting Goddess in Training on Patreon. For more tools and offerings to deepen your intuition practice, visit goddessintraining.online. You can also join the Scroll of Sashat on Substack for twice-weekly stories of how I followed my intuition. The music for Goddess in Training is Madre Ayahuasca by Arkawa, and you can find more of his music in the link to his website in the show notes. Remember, your intuition is not a mystery, it's a memory. Keep listening.
Resplandor de fuego, estrellita, tabaco santo, fuerza de rape, soplo de luz, soplo encantado, viajecito, bendición del cielo, fortaleza, tigrecito de la